Righto then, Lou, here we go. Mini band exercises, good for glute activation. Yeah? The two controlling, stabilizing muscle groups, which I mentioned, glute med and glute min. These ones right on the outside of our hip, back and side of our buttock here. Not only do they allow the glute max, your big muscle, your big glute muscle to work, driving that pedal down to allow that to work better if this is stronger and more stable. It gives us the stability when we run, which is a open chain exercise, foot off the floor, to when it closes the chain, foot goes on the floor. You want those two to kick in, allowing glute max and your hamstring to drive you forwards. If these lack stability and control, when you're running and you land with impact, that knee can come in and out all over the place, giving you a weak, unstable hip, which gives us lots of injuries later on down the line and becomes more fatiguing. When you're on the bike, which is a higher turnover generally than when we run, if it doesn't work and the knees come in and you ride a bit knock-kneed, then it gives us lots of lower backache up here, and you see a reduction in power because glute max is just not allowed to do its thing to 100% of its capability. So here I am in my cycle gear, ready before I go and cycle. I'm going to do some hip work to start off with my little mini band. So a whole range of them. You don't feel like you have to do them all. You'll find that some target this area better than others. Then go with it. There are many ways to skin a cat. So standing to start with, what I can do is I can get my feet hip width apart for my squat. And what I'm trying to do is, as I'm trying to squat, I'm trying to pull my knees apart to give me abduction, movement away from the midline. Think nose, navel, out through your hips, in between your feet. That's your midline. And any movement away from that we call abduction. So abduction of the hip, that's done by those two glute muscles. So as I sit my hips back down into a little mini squat, I'm pushing my knees out, whereas most people you see would slop their knees forward and back, like that, lifting my heels. I'm not really going anywhere here. That'd be bad. Band on. I can think about as I sit, I pull out, and then I immediately feel, oh yeah, weight back on my heels, glutes working a little bit through a mini squat as I start to warm them up. We don't need to go crazy low on any form of squatting as a cyclist, because I'm never fully extending my leg and my hip, because I've always got that slight knee bend at the bottom of the pedal stroke, so therefore I don't need a crazy range. What I do need is a very good strength within that range of my pedal stroke. So from a few squats, 15 to 20s, quite nice with the band on, it won't be a problem because it's just the band and just you. I can then squat and abduct that leg. As I lift up, I drive up from that squat, giving glute max some extension to help me drive up. And I can simply go from one leg, foot down, stretching. Nice upright body. We're trying to avoid leaning away to lift out. One side, the other side. That helps me work with glute max. I can then turn off glute max completely and just stand there and abduct in a long leg position, squeezing one side straight into the other. I can hinge myself over, drive my bum back, so I'm now more cycling position. Lift the working leg up, bit of hamstring work, and I squeeze out here. Standing leg, having to do a lot more work. then I go front on. You'll see that standing leg, keeping that knee over the ankle. As I abduct my working leg, I've got to avoid standing leg knee being pulled across. So there I am, looking down at the ground right in front of those of my feet where my front wheel would be. One side, balance, squeeze, heel squeezed up, hinged over. I feel my buttock work as I squeeze out there. Static is nice, small bit of space even in your front room, your bedroom, depending on what you've got to work around with you. You don't even have to be doing these in the gym. You can do these before an outside cycle or going outside for a run, combining this with then going for a run. It's your warm-up. Now, if you've got the room in a gym or a hallway corridor somewhere in your domicile, you could do that walking just by bum back a little bit, step, follow, only following what the lead leg stepped out. That way I keep tension on my band and I can bounce around just the confines, you know, of width or length of a room, you know, bedroom or whatever. If you didn't want anyone to see you, you could just be here and think 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, 5 steps each way times 3 to 4 times. You could couple that with some static work, walk, static work, walk. There are so many different things you can do, it's unreal. All you've got to do is, here I am in my cycle kit or my running kit, band on, doing the do. Now, some seated work you could do. Bring my bench over, you could just sit on a chair and do it. I'm sitting down, band again is just below my knees. If I drop myself forward, chest right onto my thighs, again I'm looking down at the ground right in front of my feet. What I'm doing is I'm providing a huge stretch for my glutes and loading up my quads with my body weight, and then I'm looking at abducting. Pulling those knees apart, stretching the band. 15 to 20 there. Neutral position, ear over shoulder, shoulders over hips, nice, tall and upright. Bigger range because my weight is now coming behind the band. 15 to 20 here. And then because I have, and you've probably got one at your little mini gym, a bench like this, I'll just bring the backrest up a bit. Yeah, if I did them all seated here, it would be an easier changeover. I can lie back, brace my stomach, feet would be in the same position, and now my weight is fully behind the band. The band is way over here where I'm trying to work it. I'm pulling here, I should have the biggest range of motion of all. Once round, over I go. Second time, neutral, not hunched and rounded, nice and upright, lift chest, lie back. Second time, not being out of breath. 3 times round, job done. If you wanted to when you were in the gym, then you could jump on their exercise bike, their treadmill, the rower, whatever you wanted. Get that bad boy out of the way. Taking you down to the floor. Yeah, I'm going to suffer the floor. You could lie on a mat, not a problem. Takes a little bit longer because I've just got one leg working or the other leg working when on the floor. So I've got my top leg here working, abducting, so it's pulling the band apart, and then I stretch the band by lifting a little bit more and just relaxing it until the band's just about to go soft. never letting the legs close and have the band soft to all, and it gets a big kick up. I really want to isolate just here. I would use the lying version if I really couldn't get the feeling through standing and moving, because I've got too much on the go. Down here, reference of the floor, not going anywhere. I can solely concentrate on that top leg, and then just obviously spin yourself around and you could be doing the other leg. It will be slightly more intense, but would take longer to get through them. The cheat on the floor is the person trying to get front of thigh involved, turning the toes up and kicking it. If anything, point your big toe down, lift the heel up, and then you'll feel it stretch around here and automatically engage for that lift in here. So then if you wanted to get really flash, what we would do all on one side is I do my 15 to 20 slow and controlled. That's pretty much controlled by your breathing. Top leg, balance with front hand, bottom leg, using my adductor, my inner thighs, closes, bottom leg to top leg, closing that thigh gap, 15 to 20 hold, and then top leg would go again, 15 to 20, and because it's in that much higher position at the start, it's already done some abduction, so to ask it to do just a little bit more really would put the icing on the cake. So I would go 15, 15, 15 of each of those, spin myself around onto the other side, that's once round, and keep turning myself around, excuse me, and just use the floor. And that is the mini band set of exercises, which could just be one of your 3 strength and conditionings if you wanted to do all of that because you did it at home before going for a run or a ride. That would be fine. That's all good work. Now then, when it comes to the loaded stuff, the loaded exercises, something has got to be, we've got to make ourselves heavier than what we are to get the more out of these. These are great for us long distance cyclists and runners are doing lots of low end work, lots of nice easy stuff all day. But to get better at that, to get better at running than an hour, I've got to run for 65 minutes, and then 65 becomes 70, and 70 becomes 75, and so on. And we just don't have time for that unless you're looking at only ever trying to do 10k or a 10 miler. Then you can get away with it. So the use of the extra load makes me heavier than what I am for these muscles to have to work against a heavier me, something they're not used to. So more is better. And from what you've listed, I think it might be all right at the start, but we're going to run out of weight for your ability. But we'll see where we go at the start. So what have I got? My basic squat to start with then. Relax my dumbbells by my side. Yeah, you could do it with a barbell on your shoulders. Pretty much everything remains the same. I'm thinking I've got my band on, so I'm going to pull my knees out as I drop my hips back and down, sitting my hips down low, relax my arms by my side, stand up, fully engage the hips. Drop, drive, drop, drive. Weight goes back onto heels, so my feet stay flat. You know you're going wrong when you're tipping forward. If you're on your toes and you feel like you're going to go tip forward and go wander, you know your weight's come forward and we want that weight back to stress those glutes. Sit down, drive up. In rhythm with your breathing, which would be breathe out as you stand up, breathe in as you come back down. And if you keep with that rhythm, you shouldn't be out of breath. This is not circuits or HIIT or anything else where you see people are with no range, trying to go as fast as possible. It's not the aerobic work we're after for you. So that's our squat. The deadlift then. The deadlift stresses those glutes without stressing the quads. So it'd be a heavier exercise for sure. And I would deadlift second because the squats after any form of band work as well would have got me warmed up into the life of things. My barbell, if this was a barbell, my dumbbells, it stays in front of me all the time. And I'm nice and upright, and then I hinge. My hips send me backwards and the weight stays close, and I'm looking for just below knees, squeeze up, and that weight should be skin tight. Yeah? And that shouldn't be a problem because my hips have gone back, keeping my knee above my ankle. Again, if I fold forward and shove the knees are now in the way of the weights. I can't go any lower because I've shoved my knees forward, not hitting my glutes. I must go back, drop down, squeeze up, meet them, drop and up, drop and up. Keeping my shoulders pinned back, back nice and flat to prevent that. I feel like I'm going down just because I've rolled over. Chest tall, drop, squeeze back up. So technically we call that the Romanian deadlift because we're starting at the top as opposed to an Olympic bar where we deadlift from the floor, because you've got weight plates that are Olympic size, which are this size, because when they are on the floor they're always the same height off the floor for me to pick up from down there. I can pick that up there to there. Not to be done if you've got the small weight plates or small barbell, that's too much bending over. So we stay at the top, I hinge, I squeeze, I hinge, I squeeze. And they should be our two biggest, strongest lifts, which might become a problem if you don't have enough weight to get the most out of them. So the lunge, or any of the lunges I'm about to show you, are far harder for sure. It's a much more technical, skillful exercise, but that makes up for having smaller weight available to you. Now, these first few lunges are very, very good for runners because they involve going to an open to closed chain, just the same as running. There's a couple of versions of lunge which are entirely closed chain. Cyclists would argue that's more me, because my feet would always be attached to the pedals. I never get that impact associated with cycling by having a foot on and off. I'm always attached to those pedals so I can have continual muscle action. But again, you don't have to do all of them, you could try some of them. So, forward lunging, nice and upright, shoulders pinned back, and I take that big, nice, confident stride, back knee bend, push up, alternate the leg, drive. Step, knee bends at the back, drive hard off of that front foot, boom, to get you back upright. Forward lunging, quite a quad, front of thigh dominant exercise. Its partner then, the reverse lunge, it's like it says on the tin, mate, we're just stepping back, loading up the hip a little bit more because the person's not taking that step forward and using their leg as a brake. I'm stepping back, dropping straight down, squeezing up, step, drop straight down, squeeze up, step, drop down, squeeze up, step, squeeze, step, squeeze. Nice and upright, lots of depth. squeeze up. That's the reverse lunge. And when you think, I've got no more weight available, you know, and I'm trying to go faster to make it harder and getting out of breath, that's not what we want to be like. So why don't we put the two together? All on the same leg then. I'm going to start it off. Reverse, all the way forward, forward. All the way back, reverse lunge, forward. All the way back, all the way forward. All the way back. 15 to 20, then change the leg. You're trying to avoid touching down anywhere between the back and all the way to the front. So you're standing on one leg for longer, so that works for longer, and that chain is open. Hips have to do more work. The curtsy lunge then is just doing a curtsy. My leg squeezes behind me and then I push it the other way. So I only need to be far enough behind me to push across. Yeah? Limit the amount of back that you take. So from front on, I'm up here. I work my right leg, goes behind my left, to the left, knee bend, stand up straight. Repeat, and up. So it gives me a bit more stretch in the hip by cutting across, knees down the same. Now, you could do all on one leg and then go to the other. Flash people quite like curtsy, upright, curtsy, upright, switch, stand, switch, stand, trunk facing forward, don't let the waist twist, let the hips twist. Where does it need to be for us? Well, we are runners and cyclists, left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg. So yeah, kind of like, but that comes at an aerobic cost, which if we're then going running and cycling, we don't want. So you could just think, load myself up, max weight, do them all on one side, then do them all on the other, because I want to concentrate lifting the heaviest weight, not going to an aerobics class. Last, but by no means least, the static lunge, exactly that. The one that cyclists think, this one should be for me, because it's entirely closed chain throughout the exercise. But that's so much simpler, we would need a much bigger weight. And that's what you've got to balance up. What weight you've got available. I might have to go with the harder version. But it's pretty much like it says on the tin. I get my stance set for my lunge and then I keep them there. Chest up, knee down, drive. Sink, drive. Sink, drive. 15 to 20, stand up, change that stride pattern, bum tucked underneath, chest lifted and down. Dumbbells far easier to move around than when I've got a barbell on the back of my shoulders and you're doing this and then you're trying to set yourself up. And when you start wobbling, you've got that barbell. Dumbbells lower that centre of gravity, make things really nice for you. Lunge variations. Split squat then. The split squat or the Bulgarian squat. Elevated lunge. So many different names for this. If you said to someone, oh, I do split squats, they'll be like, oh, please show me, I want something to do instead of my elevated lunge. And they're like, it's the same thing. Yeah, it is. People love just changing the name of it. Falls into the bracket of a bit more in an advanced exercise. So we might end up going to this if you've eliminated the weight that you have available for all those other types of squats and lunges. You'd come here and you might start off with pretty much just you, to be honest with you. The elevation, then I'm using my bench. So it's just something, you've got to bring that back leg up onto. Resting, I'm resting just on my laces, the tongue of my trainer is there. So this is why some people call it the elevated reverse lunge position. And then this leg has to be switched off. It's all about this lead leg. This really can't do anything. It can certainly try, but it doesn't want to be doing anything. So I'm in position here, trunk and head are nice and upright, and I'm going to drop. Knee down towards the floor, and I drive off this front leg. I want to resist driving off that back leg. Drop, drive. Keeping this front knee over that front ankle, down and up. If this back leg tries to get involved and push, it tries to straighten, and that pushes you up and forward, and then the balance goes all over the place. It really is just relaxing it. Back foot to front foot, then front foot goes back, get settled, dumbbells by your sides or clutched one centrally. Drop and drive, drop and drive, drop and drive. Now, the internet, Instagram and all that kind of jazz has got some lovely pictures of people going, oh, this is the best way to set up. If you can't find your stance, this is how to do it. There are lots of ways of finding out that stance without having to hop around. Easiest way I have found, I sit on my leg, I want to have elevated. Leg goes out, that will be my lead leg. Foot flat, when the foot can no longer be kept flat, that's where it needs to be. And I can just transition from here to upright, and there I am. Driving and sitting is perfect. That is the split squat. Last then, the step up. So often overlooked, people think it's a bit basic, but you can get some amazing high things to step up on to tax these glutes, especially if you're carrying dumbbells. Again, it's you up against gravity. So if I just have my bench there, I'm there with my dumbbells, my load, and that's me. Heel all the way on is our safety thing for our step up, because then I've got a nice solid flat foot to push up onto. No toes with heels hanging off the edge. That's the recipe for slipping off, breaking your shin. So when I've got a nice stable platform, I know I can just stand up. Back, down, repeat. Step, step, down, down. Step, step, down, down. And then we have the step up.